Hello everybody! I have the house to myself, so I'm using a different background with brightly coloured cushions behind me. Today's book is actually a play. It's based on a book, which is how it fits in with everything. For those who don't know, I do front of house at Leeds Playhouse, and that way I get to see a lot of shows, and I feel like I had to talk about this because it was just absolutely brilliant. It's Lord of the Flies. Leeds Playhouse has had Lord of the Flies, and I read the book when I was at school. It was part of my syllabus. I want to say when I was doing my GCSEs. I want to say I was about 15 or so when I read the book, saw the film that was made in, the 70s, I think, and I actually saw a production of Lord of the Flies at Leeds Playhouse when I was a teenager. So the fact that it came back was brilliant. And there was a woman who, because when I was working it, I remember, because I was working the stage, which meant I got to stand in front of the stage. Basically at the Playhouse, you can raise the stage, but generally the stage is on level with the front row of the audience, and so we get to chat to people quite a lot. And so I was chatting to someone and I was just like, yeah, well, I studied this at my GCSE, so that was like 15 years ago, over 15 years ago now. And I was saying how I saw it back then, and she was just like, well, I saw it 60 years ago, and it was just like, good for you. I don't know why you tried to turn it into a competition. It's just like, I'm 34. Like, of course I didn't see it 60 years ago, so would it be a Debbie video if I didn't have a cup of tea? Yeah, this version was directed by Amy Leach. I love Amy. I've met her a few times. I did an audition for her once, and she's the sweetest. She's one of those people that always remembers you. She's brilliant at remembering faces and names, and for me, I can be with somebody for 50 minutes at my day job. To be fair, I do spend most of my time looking at the back of their heads, but once they've left the room, their features just completely go out of my head. I think it happens a lot in jobs where you're not actually face to face with people quite a lot, because as a massage therapist, a lot of the time we are working on the back of the body, and so they are face down, and so we just don't see their faces as much. Therefore, I generally do not remember what they look like. Yeah, let's see if I can find the full cast list for you. I will say that this is a mixed cast. Obviously in the book it was all male. All the characters were male in the book. For this version they decided to do boys and girls, and what I find kind of hilarious and stupid is the fact that before the cast was announced, 2 schools complained to the Playhouse that it was an all-female cast and that they weren't coming because it was an all-female cast. And it was just like, wait, what? For one, to see an all-female version of Lord of the Flies, that sounds fascinating to me, and I would definitely go see it. And also, even if you think that there might be references to an all-female production while they are studying the book, surely that is a great comparison and contrast for an essay. How cool and interesting would it be to compare an all-female led production of Lord of the Flies to the book? Wouldn't that be an epic essay? I mean, seriously, I would love to write that essay if there was an all-female production of Lord of the Flies. Somewhere out there, make it happen. I want an all-female production of Lord of the Flies, because I think that would be epic. Having said that, our production was not all-female, and it was just mixed. I'm going to go through that cast list for you. So we've got Jason Battersby as Roger. We've got Eloise Pennicott as Sam. Kyron O'Brien as Eric. Adam Fenton as Simon. Aki Nakagawa as Henry, Justice Ezzy as Maurice, Nate Lang as Bill, John Carter as Percival, Carl O'Gara as Naval Officer, Angela Jones as Ralph, Ollie Rhodes as an understudy. Yeah. The way it's done is you got all the names in bold on here, and then sometimes you have the character first, sometimes you have the credits first, so I had to go through to really understand. But yeah, that is the cast, directed by Amy Leach, the wonderful Amy Leach, with set and costume by Max Johns, lighting by Chris Davey, sound design and composer John Biddle, and then you've got casting by Lucy Casson, with a multitude of fight and movement people, including Kate Waters, Natasha Harrison and Kyle O'Gara. We do have BSL in this production. Two of the characters have been made. Oh, I just realised I just missed out who was playing Piggy. Jason Connor. Jason Connor playing Piggy. I must admit that when I went in to have a look at the set, I was completely gobsmacked. My first shift on it, I did not see it. So I was just like, I just want to go in and have a look at the set, and then I'll go back to where I need to be. Where was I? I think I was on tickets 1 on my first shift. So I was on door number 1 and got to sit outside, so I read my book instead. And yeah, so when I snuck in and had a look at that set, oh god, it's absolutely brilliant. It's like white and grey, and I'll admit, because of the content of the play and the book, we, as front of house, had an email of all the triggers in it, because they said, well, I'm not sure if we'll have the time to go through all of it in briefing, because we usually have briefing about an hour before the show starts. Yeah, they were just like, we might not have time to go through everything in briefing, so here is an email with all the triggers and everything you need to know about the show. And you know, because it's obviously like this death, murder, carcasses, stranding on an island, lots of fake blood, there's a skeleton at the back. Was it a skeleton? To be fair, when the skeleton part actually happened, I was just like, you can't really see what it is, but we were made very clear that none of it's real, it's all fake, just in case anybody thinks that like somebody might have donated something, and it was just like, no, it's all fake. I must admit, though, fake blood is sticky. For the shift that I was inside, as I said, I was on stage, and so I had to stand in front, just in front of the stage, to make sure nobody walked on the stage, put anything on the stage. So that's a big no-no when you're in a theatre. Putting anything on the stage is a big no-no, and you will get told off. It doesn't change that some people did manage to walk across, and I did actually have to tell somebody off for trying to steal something off the stage at the end of the show. And I was just like, excuse me, you can't take that. And they were just like, what? It was just like, please give it. That needs to go back there. You cannot take that. Let's just go into the show so I can explain everything. This is what happens when I put my feet up on my makeshift tripod here. Yeah, well, the general story of Lord of the Flies is there is a plane crash where students of there's a school and there's a choir, and yeah, students are stranded on an island after a plane crash, and they essentially try to create their own community and try to survive. The play doesn't really specify how long it happens for, and I think there's lots of differing things on how long it is actually supposed to be. I think in the book it is supposed to span quite a few months, maybe a year. In the book it's a wartime evacuation, but for this version it's schools. They've kind of brought it up to date a little bit, tried to make it a little bit more modern. And yeah, so you start off meeting Piggy and Ralph. You take a while to find out what Piggy's name is, because he's embarrassed by the fact that his name is Piggy. The thing is, it's never established whether it's just a nickname or whether it's his name. I've always assumed it was just a nickname, and I did maybe wonder why he just didn't come up with a fake name, because when Ralph is kind of bullying him and egging him on and saying like, oh, so what's your name then? Why have you not told me your name? And when Piggy finally says, my name is Piggy, and Ralph just bursts out laughing, and then everybody else kind of bullies him throughout the story for his name, and the fact that he wears glasses, and the fact that he looks piggy. I know that's really, really inappropriate and bullying, but that's basically what it is. It's horrible, it's mean, and to be fair, it's kind of the point of it, because everybody gangs up on Piggy at some point in the story. Yeah, they're on this island, and you start off with those two in the play, and then you kind of get this drip feed of all the other boys and girls arriving and figuring out where they are. They're on an island. They've all been spread out through the crash, and to be honest, with the whole idea of the crash, I'm surprised that when it comes to the end of the book, people aren't more lenient with them. It's very much a case of what on earth has happened here. You'll find out in a second if you haven't read the books. I'm going to go into that more. I feel like I need to put my feet down because I feel like you're wobbling a bit. Yeah, so it's a story of this group of children trying to create a community on an island where there are no adults. As far as they are concerned, there are no inhabitants of this island. and so they try to establish a hierarchy amongst themselves. Ralph finds this conch and manages to make a sound out of it, so it goes that's a really pathetic sound of a conch. If anything, it sounded more like an elephant. Ralph uses that to call meetings, basically, and originally Ralph tries to establish themselves as leader. I will say, obviously, Ralph in the book is a boy, and in the play, Ralph is played by a girl and is identified as a girl throughout. At least in the version I saw, there was lots of referring to Ralph as a she, so it's fairly evident that in the play version at the Playhouse, Ralph is a girl. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people with opinions about that. Me, it didn't change anything before they started using pronouns in regards to Ralph. I was just there thinking, oh, is this just a woman playing a man? I'm okay with that. But then they started identifying Ralph as a woman, and it was just like, oh, okay, so they've just decided that Ralph is a girl. That's okay. Admittedly, I was just there going, Ralph isn't usually a girl's name, but to be fair, these days anything can be a name. So, before I spill my tea everywhere. After seeing this, I went into a bit of a deep dive across the television series Lost, and I was just there going, I wonder how much of Lost was influenced by Lord of the Flies, because in Lord of the Flies, they come to a point when they feel like there's a monster on the island, and they all kind of split up, and you've got this idea that Ralph thinks he's a leader at one point, and then it's not Simon, it's the other one. Simon's the paranoid one. Jack creates like a rebel group, because Jack decides that he does not want to be dictated around by somebody else. Jack is a right arsehole. Not just in the book, in the play I really hated the character of Jack. It's a testament to the actor playing Jack, because I just really, really hated him. And it's the point that you don't like Jack, because he's pompous. In the play he references being a prefect, and that's what makes him perfect for being leader. But at the same time, it's quite, Ralph is the one with the good ideas. Jack is a bit of a sheep, and he just takes and steals other people's ideas. So, if you saw my thing about Animal Farm, you'll probably start to understand why I think these two are quite comparable, Lord of the Flies and Animal Farm. Obviously the origins of Animal Farm are very different to the origins of Lord of the Flies, but when you look at the individual stories, I think there's a lot of comparison to be had there, just based on the idea of like two groups of rebellion almost, and how one leader can be pushed out by another leader stealing their ideas. That's essentially what happens in Animal Farm. Snowball versus Napoleon. Snowball is pushed out after having all these great ideas, and then Napoleon claims that all those ideas were his. It happens in Lord of the Flies. Ralph has all these great ideas as leader. Piggy is like encouraging him, because essentially Piggy and Ralph are probably the closest friendship, even though there are points when Piggy is ganged up upon. It comes to the point when Ralph and Piggy are generally friendly. It does feel like there's a genuine friendship happening throughout the story between Piggy and Ralph. Whenever Ralph has a good idea, Jack always has to come in and steal it, or say, that's not a good idea, and then like a little bit later goes, oh, that was my idea, and Ralph is there going, what are you talking about? But yeah, so it becomes kind of like the two groups versus each other. And then you got Simon, poor little Simon, who is like the paranoid one. I'll admit, because in the play, the first half is about 70 minutes. It's over an hour. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't say 70-75 minutes. And the second half is half an hour long. So it feels like quite a quick shift. It was on from the 18th of March to the 8th of April. I don't know if it's going anywhere else, though. So it may do. You might want to keep an eye on that. Oh, we had 4 stars from The Guardian. Isn't that great? When you look at just the blurb for this on the Playhouse website, it says, arrive, divide, hunt, survive. Oh, that's my pork done. I should probably have a look at that. I'm back. I am cooking myself a pork stir fry for dinner tonight before I leave the theatre, and I decided to cook the pork off early so that I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I can just grab the veggies and the noodles and it'll all be nice and easy. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was reading the blurb to you. Let's start that again. In the midst of a raging war, a group of British school children are left stranded after surviving a devastating plane crash. Ralph is voted the leader over outcast Piggy and rule-breaking Jack. As tensions rise and the hunger for power grows, the group divide and become wildly out of control. Left to fend for themselves, the children are tested to their limits as they struggle for survival in their new and mysterious surroundings. Doesn't that sound awesome? It is totally disturbing. It really is disturbing, especially when you look at where the first half finishes. It finishes with the death of somebody, I'll just say that. And as I said, when I worked inside, I only had one inside shift on this, where I was working the stage. And in the first half, there was parents with a very, very young child. And I was just there thinking, oh, I don't know how well this is going to go down, because obviously there's swearing in it, and bullying, and murder, and monsters, and yeah. It's very, very disturbing. And in the second half, that family had disappeared. I don't think they quite realised what they were getting themselves into when they brought their very young child to see the show. Do your research, people. This is a book that is on syllabus. We've had a lot of school groups in to see this show, and it's obviously on a syllabus if they're bringing them in, because they're obviously doing compare and contrast. I remember when I studied at school, I think my parents had to give their permission for me to see the film that was made in the 70s. Again, I think this is one that's had like a film in the 70s and another film in the 90s, which is kind of similar to Animal Farm, because I think their film was 50s, 60s, and then there was another one in the 90s. There's too much comparison happening with Animal Farm right now in my mind. But yeah, it's just such a powerful production, and the fact that the first half ends with the death of one of the kids, and then I had to go stand at the front of the stage in the fake blood, because as I said, there's not really much separation between the stage and the audience in the production that we had, because they're all on the same level. So the blood splatter kind of went quite far to just beyond the edges of the stage, where I had to stand in front of the lights to make sure that nobody was putting anything on the stage or walking on the stage, whatever. And I had to stand in the fake blood, and it was very sticky. And when I got home and looked at my shoes, it was just like, wow, that's going to take a while to get off my shoes. Yeah, it's just so incredible. The cast was incredible. There was no weak link amongst them all. I loved the fact that it was a blended cast of boys and girls. When I first heard about the timings of the show, with the first half being like 70-80 minutes and the second half only being about half an hour long, I was just like, really? Because I was trying to figure out where the split was going to be. So knowing that the split happened after one of the first deaths in the show. I say first deaths. First death of one of the kids. Like, the body count is 2, I think. Technically 3 when you include the parachuter. But this, I think, is what was sent to us in email about the triggers and advisories. So, this story contains challenging themes and language, including tribalism, colonialism, I can't even speak, colonialism, nuclear war, class divide, democracy, entitlement, and power. The play opens with news footage about war and evacuation, and then the sound of a plane in distress and then crashing. 2 characters are violently killed by other children in the story. Both of these characters are disabled. In the play, many of the characters kill a wild boar, smear the blood of it over their faces in an act they describe as devil worship, and display the head on a stick to make it into the Lord of the Flies. By the end of the play, this head has decayed to a skeleton. The boar, blood, and skeleton in the play will be fake. The body of a dead parachutist hangs above the stage, wrapped in their parachute, for much of the play. This body is a mannequin. There are various negative and derogatory references to body shape and physical prowess, especially in relation to the character of Piggy. That is all on the website for this production. And we, as staff, were sent a similar thing so that we were aware, because they knew they could not go through all of that in our briefings every single night before every single performance. Yeah, it's disturbing. It's brilliant though. Age guidance for this production was 12 plus. It was just absolutely brilliant. The guy who played Simon just played that paranoia so well. And the moment when you've got Simon having his paranoia and that internal monologue with himself and that pig on the stick. Yeah, because it's literally just the head. There's so many disturbing things in this play and the book. As I said, I haven't read the book for donkey's years. I feel like I want to read it again. It's interesting though, because I think, because the book definitely references the title The Lord of the Flies in regards to the pig on a stick, and I don't think the play actually uses the word Lord of the Flies. I don't remember Simon actually saying it, and it's in Simon's monologue in the book that he mentioned Lord of the Flies, because it's the idea that the flies are surrounding the pig's head as it's decaying, and yeah, it was just such a brilliant production. I hope it has a life beyond Leeds Playhouse, because it was just incredible. Amy as director, Amy Leach, just everything she touches turns to gold. I swear, anything she directs, I absolutely love it. There are so many productions of hers that I've enjoyed. She did a production of Macbeth, which I was obsessed with. She did Oliver Twist, which was, basically she's really good at leaning into the disturbing, I think, with Macbeth, Oliver Twist and Hamlet. It says it was a Leeds Playhouse and Belgrade Theatre Coventry co-production presented with the Rose Theatre, so that gives me hope that there is life for this production beyond Leeds Playhouse. I think it's because it's a regional production. The Playhouse is really good at sourcing local talent, and I love that. I mean, even with upcoming productions, I mean, I can now actually say that, because it's officially been announced, I think it was announced with What's on Stage recently, the Playhouse's Christmas production this year is going to be the musical version of Oliver. I wonder if Amy's going to have anything to do with that, considering the fact that she did the last version of Oliver Twist, which was the play, which was dark and disturbing, and I loved it. I like the dark and disturbing, can you tell? But yeah, we've just had it announced that we are doing Oliver the musical for Christmas. And there's other things that I am aware of that has not been made public yet, which I'm holding on to until things are announced. But it's going to be so cool. It's going to be so cool! Yeah, I can't wait. That was the promo picture for our version of Lord of the Flies. Isn't that awesome? Cover up people deserve all the loves, because they just don't get enough recognition, I don't think. I didn't really say much about the story, did I? If you want to know, you can read the book, you can see the movies, but yeah, it's just that power play between the two groups, and it ultimately becomes Ralph and Piggy versus Jack, and everybody else just kind of gets in the firing line a bit. The fact that they do figure out how to start a fire through Piggy's glasses and trying to kind of like angle the sun through the glasses to start a fire, but it does lead to a lot of conversations, especially in the play, where Piggy is going, I am blind without my glasses, give me my glasses back. And I think in the book, his glasses actually get damaged. I don't think they actually broke the glasses in the play. I don't remember that happening. As things that we need to be aware of front of house, we need to be aware of like 5 minute, 12 minute, whatever, so that we can get, there's like late comer points. But then we also had to know like what is 5 minutes before the interval, or 5 minutes before the end of the show, so that we can like prepare things. And they were just like, you will know that the end of the first half is coming up when, spoiler alert, a child dies. And we were just like, oh, okay. So we'd be there watching on the screen when we're out, going, oh, he's dead. Come on, let's go get the ice creams. It's just, the relationship that you have with the productions that are on when you are working it is just, it's ridiculous. It really is. I feel like I've been going on for absolutely ages, so I'll probably wrap this up. But yeah, I just love this production. I thought it was incredible. I thought Amy Leach did such a good job of just really tapping into the disturbing. There was funny moments as well. I think she was very good at finding the balance there and being faithful without being too faithful, and allowing to put her like her own stamp and twist on it. Yeah, it was just brilliant. The original novel was released in 1954 by author William Golding. Yeah, this is the original UK Lord of the Flies book cover, according to Wikipedia. There you go. Lord of the Flies, Leeds Playhouse. Just bloody fantastic production. I loved it. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If there's anything you want me to read or talk about, or you just want to ask me questions, don't forget to chat to me. I like people talking to me. I will see you next time with another video. Stay safe, my lovelies. Goodbye.